Section 1.4b is about using the identity and the equality properties. In the last video we learned about those properties, and you may want to have those properties handy while we evaluate this expression. What we're going to do is we're going to do each step, and then after each step we're going to name the property that gives us permission to do that step. So as we look here, PEMDAS tells us to go inside the parentheses and then do what's in there with multiplication from left to right first. So 2 times 3 is 6. Now we have to ask ourselves, what property gives me permission to replace a 3 times 2 with a 6? And the answer is the substitution property says I can do that. Now we go inside the parentheses again. 6 minus 5 is 1. So first we simplify, and then we say what property lets us replace a 6 minus 5 with a 1. Well, again, that's substitution. Again, any property in which none of the others fit is going to be substitution. That's a place where you just substitute a value in for another, and we'll call that substitution. Now, left to right, multiplication, we'll do 2 times 1 and get a 2. What property says I can start with a 2, multiply it by something, a 1, and get a 2? That's the multiplicative identity. Continuing, 3 times 1/3. When you multiply 3, it's really a 3 over 1. So if you want to think about it that way and then cancel the 3's, you'd get a 1. The property that says I can do that is the multiplicative inverse property. And 3 and 1/3 are called reciprocals. And then finally, 2 plus 1 is 3. So when I evaluate my expression, I get the number 3. And then the property that says I can do that is substitution. So not only do you have to evaluate, but you have to give the property that says you can do each step. Here's our next one. PEMDAS says inside the parentheses we'll do division first. 48 divided by 4 is 12. What property says I can do that? Substitution. 12 minus 12 is 0. Property says I can do that is substitution. And then 6 times 0 is 0. And the property that says I can do that is the multiplicative property of 0. In this example, we will start by using inside the parentheses multiplication. So 15 times 1 over 15 is 1. And the property says that I can replace 15 times 1 over 15 with a 1 is the multiplicative inverse. 15 and 1 over 15 are called reciprocals of each other. Now I'm going to take 8 times 0 and get a 0. The property says I can multiply something by 0 and end up with 0 is the multiplicative property of 0. Staying inside the parentheses now, 1 plus 0 is just 1. And that's the additive identity, because I started with 1, added something to it, which was a 0, and got a 1. The last step we'll do is multiply 1 times 12. We'll get a 12. So we have a 12, we multiply by something and end up getting the same number. That's the multiplicative identity.